Good morning, everyone. Today we are here to talk about scholarly writing. It's probably one of the biggest issues that doctoral learners have as they try to finish the program. The way you write in your classrooms will not get you to the end of the program. So today we're here to present on scholarly writing, and I'm here with my wonderful colleague, Kathy Wenslau. We are here today to present together. This is a problem-solving oriented seminar today. You will be interacting with paragraphs that we have selected for you to figure out what's right, what's wrong, what things need to be changed. We find as you become critics of other people's work, your work actually improves. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Dr. Wenslau, do you want to do a brief introduction of yourself?
Yes. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad that you joined us for this this inaugural writing seminar that Lori and I have put together. I know some of you and others I have not had the opportunity to meet, but I am glad to know you. I am a graduate of GCU and have my doctorate in virtual education. So I well understand, having done the program online, how this information that we're going to give to you is so valuable, because you do struggle with how to learn to write and to write effectively and scholarly. So we hope the information that we share with you will be value added to you. Feel free to ask questions or make comments or ask us to clarify anything that is not clear.
Thank you for that. And I am Dr. Lori Wieters. I've been teaching at GCU for 10 years. Don't tell anybody, that seems like a really long time. And I'm a doctoral chair. I've graduated 12 learners already. I have 2 more hopefully in the bucket for this year. So hopefully by the end of the year, I will have in my career graduated 14 people, which is awesome. I've also participated on at least 10 other doctoral projects as the content expert. So I have been around for a long time. I teach residency. I teach the 861 class for Grand Canyon University, which is the literature review class. And it's really the first foray into being held accountable for scholarly writing in that class. So here we go. And thank you again for participating with us today. Let me get you. All right, here's what we're doing today. First of all, we're going to be defining scholarly writing. It is not business writing. It's not education writing. It is not any other writing. It is its own unique animal. And I know for me personally, I have been in business for many, many years. And the hardest thing I did was try to finish my degree writing in a scholarly manner, because I would much rather write in short sentences and bullets than long paragraphs that are well defined with a topic and closing sentence. So we'll learn a lot more about that here in a few minutes. We're going to work to describe objective, synthesized scholarly discussions and arguments within paragraphs. A lot of listing is going on in paragraphs. Bob Smith said this, Sally Joe said this, my grandma said that. I mean, it's unbelievable what we see within the content of a scholarly paragraph. So hopefully today we'll dispel that. We're going to explain the difference between topic, descriptive, transition, and closing sentences. We all learned this when we were in 3rd and 4th and 5th grade. But over the years, depending on where you're working and how you're working and what's acceptable around you, we've gotten a little lazy and living outside of the scholarly realm. And I have an example we're going to present today on paper, pencils, and pens. If you've been with me at residency, you already know what that example is, and I'll go over that again. We're going to do some critiquing of existing paragraphs, and then we're going to formulate an objective, synthesized scholarly paragraph. So as you're thinking through the seminar today, you might want to pull up maybe one of your paragraphs, and then as we go through the process today, critique your own. Just smile at it. I guarantee you what your dissertation or your process looks like today will be very different than what it'll look like at the end of the day. And then I will tell you that Dr. Winslow and I have totally violated PowerPoint 101, and we put all kinds of stuff on these PowerPoint slides so that you can have them for references later. So you can already know we get it. So just smile. Well, that's what I say. Just smile at it. All right. We're going to start with what is scholarly writing.
Dr.
And, yes.
Would we be able to see the PowerPoint?
You can't see it?
No.
Oh, I thought I shared it. Oh,
thank you, Dr. Wieters.
Yes. Can you see it now?
I can see it. How about the rest of the group?
Yay.
Yay.
All right, I did have that on the slide. Hold on, let me get it over there. So that was on the slide. So you will see it on the recording. That's the awesome thing. All right, let's talk about Scott. Thank you, Dr. Winslow. She always keeps me accountable. We work a lot together almost every day. So scholarly writing. It's the same writing that we're required to use in publications. So what we're trying to do in the scholarly writing realm is prepare you eventually to write articles. Now, we know maybe 2 or 3, maybe 5% of people ever go on and write a lot of articles and are prolific publication people. And some of us just want the letters behind our name so that we can go out and we get permission to do the work we do today. And a lot of, if you're going into higher education, it's publish or perish. So like if you're going to go teach somewhere, you're going to want to make sure that you understand what's required. And as you look at your peer-reviewed articles, you're going to see a lot of the pieces of the doctoral dissertation that are actually in those areas. Okay, hold on a minute. I just want to make sure no one else is coming in. So your personal opinions, by the way, are not welcome. And I'm not being rude or mean or anything like that. They are your personal opinions that you are able to talk about, let's say in your master's level writing and other areas where you said, you know, I believe and I think and my opinion is not allowed. We see biased, experience-based verbiage in many new researcher documents. And it's all about how you construct a paragraph, and we'll continue to explore why that's important. Proper citations and references using exemplar APA formatting is required. I always say, and this might seem weird, but a sexy document gets you through the process really quickly. And one of those is well-dressed in good APA formatting and not a lot of fluff, not a lot of your opinion in there. And so you want to make sure that you are familiar with it. And we just came out with APA 7, and we have some references for you later on in this document. Paraphrasing versus quoting material is required. So quoting material is not a thing in scholarly writing. I see it all the time, especially new researchers, new people to the doctoral dissertation process. They quote material, and it's long quotes. It's like 40 or whatever, they have to offset it, 40 words, they have to offset it in the script. And do not do that unless it's Abraham Lincoln or Barack Obama or someone that you can't paraphrase. Do that. But if it's just a journal article and the authors are saying X, Y, and Z is happening, you need to learn to paraphrase. And there are many, many paraphrasing videos out there. So if you are struggling with it, go out and look at YouTube. What is paraphrasing? How do I paraphrase? And make sure that you're not plagiarizing the information. Each section should be well organized. You should walk the reader through the content in a clear, focused manner. Here's where, and we'll talk on the next slide a little bit about something I call mental leaps. where you're just writing away, and then all of a sudden you make a mental leap from, we're mowing the lawn right now, in your doctoral dissertation, we're mowing the lawn, and all of a sudden I'm reading, and now I'm pruning the trees. And I have no idea how I got from one spot to the other. So it's really important that you have a plan for your writing. You just can't sit down and write. Each paragraph should have one focus and not make, as we talked about, mental leaps from one topic to another. The appropriate headings and subheadings should be used throughout. That goes along with your APA formatting. A lot of times, especially in the 861 class I teach, I get headings or no headings and just a paper written. I might get one heading at the top and no subheadings. So I, as a reader, cannot even match what you're writing to the grading rubric. And by the way, that's a great hint for all of you. Before you even start writing, go out to the grading rubric and look at the headings in the grading rubric, add introduction and conclusion, and you've got your paper. Very quickly, very easy to do. And 861 especially, I post for your first paper, I actually post your outline. And so look for it, find it. If you haven't gone through that class or you're going through that class, just make sure if you're with me that you go look for it. From an APA and formatting perspective, there should be only one space after sentence ending punctuation, and that is highlighted in this APA 7. A lot of you are putting two spaces. I think we were all taught that way on our typewriters, if you ever used a typewriter in your lifetime or whatever, but we're all taught to go space, space. That used to be in APA when you were sending in drafts. You would send them in the two spaces. Now, all the world is at one space because of all the technology. So make sure you do that. And the way I check for that, and this is really simple. If you've got a 100-page document, it's like impossible to do. But if you go into the find and replace feature in Word and you put period, space, space, like on your keyboard. So hit period and then hit your space bar twice. And then you go in and replace it with period space. It'll replace all of those in your document. And that's one of the first things I do when I grade. I open up your paper, I do a spell check, grammar check. So you don't want to already have that done. But I know a lot of learners forget or run out of time to do it. The second thing I do is the find and replace one space. And when you guys do it, don't have track changes on because it's crazy land. But when I do it, I have track changes on and it'll show you all those errors really quickly. That's a couple of the first things I do as I go through your paper. I also scroll through and make sure that you've used appropriate headings and subheadings. And so your doctoral work is the same. So what we're doing every day is in your classroom is we're training you for what's going to be required at the end, whether it's you're writing a DQ, a discussion question of 150 to 250 words with a recent scholarly citation. That teaches you to be succinct for when you get to your prospectus. You're expected to write things in one paragraph. To all the other work you're going to be doing, and because your doctoral work has to be succinct and well formatted. And again, there's no grammatical punctuations, there's correct sentence structure, and there should not be any APA formatting errors. So we're going to go through pieces of that as we go along. Are there questions so far? No? All right. Let's keep going. We're going to talk quickly about this topic, which is near and dear to my heart. I try to make sure that All of my learners understand that as a scholarly researcher, you're required to write an objective, not biased, not your own opinion, synthesized, succinct, well-structured. You're supposed to have that in a scholarly discussion or argument that moves logically from paragraph to paragraph and topic to topic. Wow, right? That's a lot. And we're going to show you how you do that here in a few minutes. The biggest error I see learners make is they don't use topic sentences, they don't use closing sentences, and their descriptive sentences don't match their topic sentences or their closing sentences. So there's all of this stuff that is going on in one paragraph. And I think Dr. Kathy and I are both really, we read a lot of this material, and I get a sixth sense, I guess, about your document as soon as I open it up, probably within the first, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes, I can see what's wrong. And so to read the whole thing would mean that I would give the same feedback over and over and over. So a lot of times I'll go through the first 5 or 6 pages and I'll say, you've got the same errors throughout. Here's some additional information I want you to look at. Your instructors are instructed to use bubble comments. So as you get your documents back from your instructors, as you go through the doctoral process, will come in bubble comments to the right. We're not supposed to, sometimes once in a while, write in, you need a closing sentence here or a topic sentence here, but most of the time, we're not supposed to change your content in your document. So you'll get the bubble comments, and you'll have those throughout. Even in AQR, you'll get, even though your committee's looked at it, even though all these folks have looked at it, you're going to send it off to your AQR reviewer, and then what are they going to do? They're going to give you 100 more comments, and you're going, but we all looked at it. It's like the same thing of looking at the same document 400 times, you don't see the errors anymore. So we want our paragraphs to move logically. In past papers we might have written in the past years, we wrote things in lists and perspectives one by one. So a lot of times we will see Bob Smith said this, Sally Joe said this, my grandma said this, right, in this list, versus this discussion of, you know, this flowy discussion that it contains transition words and phrases and things like that that are really important to the reader as they move through your thought process. You must paraphrase, we heard that, the information from the authors to support or not support your discussion or argument. And we would love to hear, as you're writing, especially in your chapter 2 review of literature, we would love to hear you writing in a way that presents both sides of an argument. We say authors today disagree on virtual education. That's a great topic sentence. And then after that, you're going to host, I call it host, in your paragraph, this beautiful argument that says, you know, current authors are looking at so-and-so in 2020 are talking about X, Y, and Z, whereas others argue against it, which causes this to be a great topic for exploration for this doctoral work. Do you hear that? Do you hear that flow and that idea of how do I host this objective, synthesized scholarly discussion? We'll look here in a minute at transition and the synthesis words to help your reader through your discussion or argument. And then you must write in third person throughout your document. So I opened up early on that I teach the literature review class for Grand Canyon University. It's about midway through, or at the end of year 1, or about midway through your 2 or 3 years of classwork. And I still get single-spaced documents. I still get single-spaced APA. I still get first person. And I look at that and think, along the last year, what has occurred or not occurred that's causing you to still write in that manner. Not you particularly who are here, but you as learners in the world to still write there. Because I think that's a disservice. And you come into my class and you get held accountable for scholarly writing. And it's a little bit of a wake-up call. Thoughts, ideas, questions? Okay.
No, not for me.
Okay, we'll continue on. All right, we thought we'd, Dr. Winslow and I thought we'd bring in just the idea of synthesized wording and objective third person, just as a foundation for everyone. And transition and synthesis words are absolutely necessary to help the reader through that scholarly discussion or argument. And we'll get you this PowerPoint so you can have these so you don't have to write furiously. But there's 5 different, there's 6, there's 8, whoever you read online, there's all kinds of, there's 10 transition synthesis word categories, there's 5, there's 8, there's just all kinds. So everybody's trying to make their way in this world. So we picked 5 that we thought were most important to your scholarly writing. And we'll link those in here in just a minute. So in the comparison contrast words, likewise, nonetheless, however, nevertheless, these are things that you're going to write as you host your scholarly discussion. For example words, for example, for instance, indeed, of course, specifically, I don't like of course really well, but a lot of people use it as the ending part of their argument. Of course, more research needs to be done in X, Y, and Z to really understand how virtual learning affects the world. Cause and effect words, you have time, location words, before, after, immediately, and be sure you're using these appropriately. A lot of us use, above all, X, Y, and Z is important. Below, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense. Is this below or above? Should it be below? It gets a little confusing. So make sure you're using these words in the right way. And then sequential words, second, first, second, third, finally. This gives you a short list of the words that are expected to be hosted in your scholarly discussion. And then third person objective reporter of information. Here's a big error I see learners make. They want to engage the reader, and they've been taught to engage the reader in their master's work, or maybe they do it at work. But we see this a lot where in third person objective reporter of information, you start a paragraph with a quote. John Maxwell said, blah, 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 blah. And that's trying to engage them. Or you flop into we language. We, together, X, Y, and Z, and already it's not your role to engage the reader with quotes, engaging language, and questions. A lot of people write a paragraph, and at the end of the paragraph, they'll say something like, oh, and this is the question that we're going to be answering for this paper. So as you're looking at being the third person objective reporter of information, you're only reporting out what you're seeing in the literature. Not about how you feel about it, not about how the reader's going to feel about it, but absolutely what you're finding and being as objective as possible. So you're the neutral objective reporter of information where the researcher uses an it or they perspective. They said, it appears, it or they. You cannot use first person, I, we. We together are going to walk through this paper together in this manner. We will explore, and I still see it in a year into the program, where people are flopping into the we perspective. And then I also see the word you. And by the way, when I start to grade a paper, I do some quick things like find we. I also find you. really quickly to see if the writer has gone into we or you. Because if they have, the rest of the paper doesn't matter, right? Because I already know that it's filled with bias, opinion, rhetoric, and isn't written in a good third person objective manner. Thoughts, questions, ideas? Okay. I know this is a lot of blah, 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 but you guys get your chance at this here in a minute.
Actually,
Okay.
can I ask you a quick question?
Uh-huh.
So I was going through some of the dissertations that I'm actually going to be using with mine as well. And I had found in there that they're using, instead of like I or we or you, like they were using the researcher or the author when they were also referring to themselves.
Yes. And you'll see that, Marie, you'll see that in chapter 5, especially chapter 5, where you finally have a voice in chapter 5.
Okay.
But in chapter 3, a lot of times you'll also see the researcher will be X, Y, and Z. We'll be using interviews and focus groups to gather data, and that's okay because that's third person.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
You should try to avoid that at all possibilities, but the problem is that you can't say the doctoral dissertation will do anything because it's an inanimate object. So you have to be really careful of that too. So that's why they flip into this researcher will. That's a great question, by the way.
Thanks.
Anybody other questions you might have? Okay, I tried to construct, years ago, I tried to construct a simple scholarly paragraph that highlights a lot of the information we just saw in the requirements for scholarly writing, and being that scholarly writing person that you're going to be, and maybe you are today, especially if you've had me for residency, huh, Lori? Just say yes. Scholarly writing can be operationalized very easily. We make it really hard, but writing for your dissertation is very different again from your day-to-day writing. So part 1 of the paragraph is a topic sentence. Now, a topic sentence directs your reader as to what you are going to be telling them. It should not be cited. And you can say, oh, I've read a whole bunch of dissertations where no topic sentence was used and that was okay. As we get more and more advanced at Grand Canyon, this is going to become more and more obvious about why we need to be writing in the way that Harvard wants people to write and other bigger universities. So although today it may not appear that way in a lot of the doctoral dissertations that you are reading, I don't want you to get to the end of the program and say, well, because they did it, I should be able to. I want you to get through the program. I have very few of my doctoral dissertations returned to me for writing. And that's what you want, because writing can hold you up for months and months and months and months. So practice it now. So let's start with a topic sentence that's not cited. There's no other authors in the world who will ever start your paragraph like you're going to be writing your paragraph, connecting it to the prior paragraph or starting as a new section. You are the only person that's going to be doing that. So the one I put here is paper, pencils, and pens are important workplace office supplies. You all know what we're about to talk about. There's nothing, and it's okay to introduce a couple concepts and then put it in there, or introduce one. This is where writing like you're thinking doesn't work because you actually have to physically plan to connect one paragraph to another paragraph to another paragraph purposefully. So that is the start of that's called my topic sentence. And then I can have about 1 to 5 descriptive sentences that should be cited or that are a transition from one citation to another. So another short sentence to consequently and with hence and all these things that you want to use that enable that scholarly discussion. So let's start with Smith, 2019, stated that paper continues to be the most used office supply today. So it goes, paper, pencils, and pens are important workplace office supplies. Smith stated that paper continues to be used. And then the second part of the argument is, although, according to Jones, paperless efforts have led to the use of pencils emerging to the top of the office supply list. Now, I made all this up, by the way. These are not real things, but anyway. And then you go into pencils have been used since the time of the Western schoolhouses, and pencil makers continue to create innovative versions of pencils. And that was West. Hence is a transition word of although and hence. The office supply market continues to change. That is my sentence. I am transitioning from the discussion on pencils and paper into the pens. Pens have also made a resurgence on the office supply shelves. So I have 2 of my own sentences in there. And then pens, according to House, 2016, continue to be a valuable office supply tool that is found in most offices today. So what do we know? I'm going to open this up for a second. What do we know about paper, pencils, and pens right now? Anybody want to try that?
We know they've been used since the time of Western schoolhouses. So some of their history.
A little bit of history.
We also
Go ahead.
We also know the importance of it. So in particular, like why you are focusing on this. You've got that in the topic sentence, but it gives other people's perspectives as to basically back it up.
Yeah, I'm making an argument, right? That they're all really important office supplies. That's my argument.
Mm-hmm.
And
so,
go ahead, Marie.
It's breaking down each one as to why each of those is important.
Okay, and so now I have 6 sentences so far, and your scholarly paragraph it can be a minimum of 3, a topic, a closing, and a supporting sentence for some reason. A lot of times you'll find those at the introduction part of a section, and it should have no more than 8 sentences, and they should contain no more than 1 topic, so only 1 topic. So our topic is office supplies. We have 3 introductory items that we're talking about. And now it's our time to close that. Now there's 2 ways to close. There is a transition sentence. That means that you're going to another paragraph and you're closing what you're writing about and you're introducing the next item that's coming up. Or it's a closing. Maybe you're at the end of that section. So it could be that could be at the end of that section just says, we're done talking about this. Now we're moving on to another subheading and something new. So the part 3 of the paragraph starts with the transition. Paper, pencils, and pens are some of the most important tools found in an office today. What does that mirror? What does that first part of that sentence mirror?
Your topic sentence.
Yep. And then, however, the copier is emerging as a replacement for all 3. So the next paragraph is about copiers. So operationalizing your writing is really important. And then closing is paper, pencils, and pens are some of the most important office tools found in an office today. Close, done, moving on to the next section. So you're going to use one or the other. And by the way, that is not cited because there's no author in the whole wide world that's going to close your paragraph the way you just started it.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I have two questions actually. So the first question I have is, so in the class I'm in right now, I have Dr. Bankston, and he gives us really good feedback about the sentence structure. But he said if you make a statement, like it sounds like your closing statement, for example, paper, pencils, and pens are some of the most important tools found in an office today. He said it must be cited, and I can't figure out how to not cite. I can't figure out what he's, you know what I'm saying? Because I thought you were right that you don't cite the first one or the last one. And so I wasn't doing that. And I got marked off on my first few papers because I wasn't citing those.
So there are different thoughts about that. But if you've made the appropriate argument in the middle, you should be able to support that statement.
Okay.
Now,
And then
I don't know why.
I'm trying to find an example so that I could give you one of what he was actually saying. Let me just pull up my paper here really quickly. But then my other question is, he said that most of the paragraphs need to be between 3 and 12 lines, not sentences. So keeping it succinct as well, right?
Yeah, I think a really good, healthy paragraph is around 5 to 6 sentences. That's a healthy paragraph. I see page long. I see 3-page long paragraphs. I see a lot of things that are, as soon as I see a page long paragraph, immediately I know that the writing is unfocused. There's no topic in closing sentences. There's not even a subtitle in there to help me move through the content. And so I already know as I zip through your paper how the paper feels from one student to another. And that's kind of interesting to think through, but this is how we teach the paragraph structures. Other people, other instructors have other beliefs. However, when you have a strong argument in the middle, you should be able to support that final frame. So you have the topic sentence and the closing.
And also, yeah, and also I might add that when you're looking and when there's comments such as it should be 12 lines or that kind of thing, that's nice to have as information into how you're writing. But the general thing that I would recommend you go back to is to ensure that you have introduced your subject, that you've talked about your subject and provided evidence to support that subject. And then you have a closing and a way to move from that piece to the next piece. And if you have those high, if I'm saying that real high level, but if you can look at your paper paragraph by paragraph and note to yourself, I've got an opening and I'm telling somebody what's going on, then I've got some evidence, and then I've got a nice little closing, then that might steer you away from thinking, okay, I got to have 12 lines or 15 lines or whatever, but it's more the value added of the content and the words chosen as opposed to the amount of numbers. Does that help you?
Yeah.
Did you find
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. I mean, because I was always taught 3 to 5 sentences make a paragraph. Well, sometimes you maybe need you need 8 sentences. Sometimes you need just that tad more, but also you need to also consider in that the expressive way that you're writing and the words that you're choosing, because you can say something in 50 words, but then you can take that same thing and drop that down into 25 words by choice of word, choice of your vernacular. Does that make sense?
Yep. Thank you.
As you write your paragraphs and you're thinking through what you want in your paragraphs, a lot of times I have my learners use their review of lit kind of like a worksheet. So in that review of lit piece, they might have a topic sentence and then they have 3 bullets, like these could be bullets in front of you. And then what they do is they put the citations in there and everything of what they want to do, but it's in bullet form. And then they go back and they construct their scholarly discussion. So it just depends on your writing ability. Some learners put the actual statement from like Smith 2019, they'll actually copy paste that in there in a bullet, and then they'll go back and paraphrase it and connect it together. This is more of a project than it is anything else, because you have to plan for every single paragraph. And most learners just sit down to write, and then it gets really muddled.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you find what you wanted to look at?
So the sentence, like, so here's a opening sentence that he said I needed to have because I was making a statement. I said, change has an effect at many levels from the individual to the organization and can impact multiple areas such as individual, social, financial, and corporate concerns in many ways. And then I was going to talk about each of those things.
Yeah, so what I would do is that's a lot.
Yeah.
I would have a shorter topic sentence, and then I would actually tell you, because that does sound like you're putting your experience in it.
Okay.
So that's where that caught me just for a minute, because I know you have a ton, and this is the other hiccup, right? Some of us have a ton of experience in what we're studying, and to try and keep our voice out of it is hard. It's one of the hardest things you'll do. So that, to me, that sounded like your voice coming through.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot. And so if you had something shorter that says, I don't know, something that's like 5 to 7 to 10 words, and then going
instead of saying that beginning where it says change has an effect at many levels from the individual to the organization and can impact multiple areas such as this. Change can impact multiple areas such as individual, and not put that other stuff in there.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Lori, I would have hiccuped on that too. I would have gone, huh?
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'll highlight it and then I'll put a bubble comment that says, this sounds like biased opinion and has no scholarly writing. And I know that it sounds rude, but
yeah.
Sometimes that's
okay, good. Thank you.
Perfect. Other questions or comments on how to write a scholarly paragraph? Your little guy is going to be really informed on scholarly writing. He's so cute too. Oh, that's like you just want to squeeze him. Okay, we're going to start into the interactive part of this session, and we're going to talk about what's wrong or right with this paragraph. And as you look at this paragraph, they're introducing 10 articles. And it's actually from an 861 paper 1, which is, by the way, is 14 pages long in your week 2 assignment. So for those of you that have taken that, it's the most important one. But as you're looking at this, and maybe we can address some APA, and maybe we can address things, there's things that are right and things that are wrong in this paragraph. And we're going to start looking at it as, okay, what's right, what's wrong? Let's start critiquing these things. And then we have several more that we're going to look at. And hopefully by the end of this, it'll help you understand what we look for as an instructor or as someone who's reading. Dr. Kathy reads and coaches a lot of learners with their writing and how to construct their final or their proposal and then their final dissertations. But all right, so take a minute and look at this, and let's just talk through what you find is right or wrong from what we've talked about. There's no right or wrong answer, by the way.
Well, in that first sentence, right, where they say, in addition to operations, much of this literature is specifically addressing implementations. I mean, that's calling out multiple literatures and there's no citation.
Yeah. They tried to link it with this is seen in the article, blah.
Right.
So I'm seeing the first sentence and the last sentence don't seem like they're really mirroring the same information.
Yes. Good. Good. It shouldn't be written exactly the same, but it shouldn't have two different contexts either. Can you guys see this okay, by the way? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can say. Well, and I think like in most of this where they're calling out all these quotes should be more of speaking about what's going on and then just citing it instead of saying in this book and giving you the name also intended to, I mean, wouldn't you just say likewise the book also intended, or likewise analytical ways to improve student performance, and talk about that and then just quote it? Do you need to put the book name in there?
Yeah, you could probably likewise, Fenthaler 2020
Right.
about supporting higher education systems in relation to analytical ways.
It's talking
So-
It kind of muddles it up.
Yeah.
it says
Liliana?
it's talking about how they specifically address performance metrics in higher education, but they could have talked about what metrics they were actually looking at specifically, because then it says all these articles share the common theme of implementation of performance metrics, but it doesn't necessarily talk about which metrics they're analyzing or interpreting.
Right.
How many paragraphs should this have been?
A lot shorter.
Well, there's a lot of themes in here.
Right.
Hmm.
Yep.
I'm looking at the Eifenthaler 2020 reference. It says, likewise, the book, he could have just ignored putting in the title and talked about Eifenthaler's research,
Yes.
that it intended to look at analytical ways to improve student performance. He didn't necessarily need to put in the title.
Yeah. And then are quotes like this loud? Do you know the APA right way to do it? Is it quotes? If this was right?
No, I think it's italics, isn't it?
Good. Woohoo! If you're going to do that, it's in italics. But this isn't a scholarly discussion. This is a list,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I was just going to say that it's more of a list of stuff that they're, but then at the very end, they say, whoever says, these are the common themes. So then I thought, well, maybe they were just trying to list them so that they could talk about each one. Like if this was an intro paragraph, so that they could talk about each one in their own paragraph.
Yeah, and maybe that would be allowed in certain papers that you're writing. Maybe that would be okay. With the new APA 7, the long citations, like the one in the third from the bottom, they become et al. Right away. I mean, so you're gonna have to look at year 7, APA 7 in relation to this.
Can I ask a question about APA 7? One of my classmates asked our recent professor if we could use APA 7 because we already had the manual. And the professor told her no, that we were still using APA Guide 6. Is that
In the classroom, yes.
okay? Okay.
In the classroom, yes. All the instructors, but GCU just came out with the new doctoral templates.
Right.
And as you guys start moving to the new template, you have to use 7.
Okay.
Lori, did they talk about that in residency?
Yes, we did at length.
Yeah.
Like the differences in the different, like we took like probably an hour to talk about the differences, the main differences between 6 and 7.
So you guys have done really well with this. You can see now, as an instructor, if I open this up and I see this, immediately I'm concerned with the quality of the paper. It doesn't take long, especially if you're a doctoral chair who looks at a lot of this stuff, or if you're a content instructor like I am. Pretty soon you're going, okay, we need to educate is what we need to do. Other questions or thoughts on this first one? Pretty much caught them all. The topic and closing sentences don't match. The APA formatting is off. The quoting, the excessive quoting just is not well done. If you have 2 or 3, let me talk about how I would have liked to have seen this. There's 2 or 3 different focus points on student performance, student metrics. I think you caught, are all of these post-secondary education? Because it didn't introduce that in the top, but they say student. So maybe you introduce it in a small paragraph, excuse me, and then you go into a subtitle of high school, secondary, or whatever performance metric. And then you have a little scholarly discussion about the 3 or 4 authors who might have been in that. And then you have another small subtitle that introduces key performance indicators and have a little discussion about that. So it might be 3 paragraphs versus one big bunch of information list. Yes, thank you. Good. All right, let's go to the next one. And I didn't make any of these up, by the way. None of these are made up. So we notice this is a new that talks about attrition rate, disparity, and reasons for distributor dropout. It's a paper on multi-level marketing. So what are some of the things, like you don't even read it, but you notice right off the bat?
No topic sentence. This is actually just like one reference or one citation, it looks like.
This looks like they spent more time putting in their opinion than they were trying to put in the information, like the facts from other readings to support their topic. Plus, I mean, and if that is their topic sentence, it's got a citation in it, which is a big no-no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see an ending sentence either.
Mm-mm.
Good, you guys are getting it.
Tell me about spacing issues.
Oh, it's got the double space at the end of every sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask, on the first sentence, I know that's a big no-no as far as that goes. If that is the first time that you're actually citing it, should we be doing our citation like that though? Or should we be doing it with the year at the end of the sentence?
It depends, and you need to vary those up as you go through the process. There's no hard and fast rule on that. I like, if it's something really important for that author, I like it at the beginning of the sentence because you could explore, you could use different words there to discuss the attrition rate, attempting to do that, but it should be a second sentence.
Okay.
Well,
Thanks.
I think in that sentence, further inquiry may reveal that the disparity in income lies. That sentence, if it's further inquiry, is it the same author or is that a new author? I have no idea.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of is attached to the one above because it's although the study, but that might be a sense where if it's really important, maybe you take Corone 2014 and add it to the back end. I know there's some things as you're looking at APA as multiple citing of the same person in the same paragraph. There's some particular ways to do that. But for this one, to your point, Lori, as we go further into this, when you get to further inquiry may reveal that the disparity in income lies in distributor capabilities or personality traits as the reason for varying degrees of success. Who said that? And the study asserts, what is the problem with giving inanimate objects the ability to do something?
Yeah, you're giving it an opinion.
That?
There's a term for it. I know there is. Oh my gosh, it's on the
I'm going to
tip.
wait until you find it.
Oh my god.
Okay. Can I help you?
Oh, anthropomorphisms or whatever.
Yep. Yep. And we see it all the time. So, and then what do I notice right off the bat? When we think of having a scholarly discussion about and where you're supporting your argument for your paragraph, what do we know right off the bat? There's only one.
Oh yeah, there's no synthesis. It's not, there's only one argument on one side.
Yeah.
One perspective in this paragraph. So as you think about writing your paragraphs, few and far between should be your 3-sentence paragraphs because they really only present one thing. However, as soon as I look at a paragraph like this, I know there's an issue with the paragraph. I don't have to read it. But if I see 2 or 3 different citations in the paragraph with a transition sentence or 2, then I know this is a well-written paragraph. So we know that 2 or 3 things to fix this is we pointed out the topic sentence and a transition or closing sentence is needed. You guys pointed those out. 1 or 2 more citations are required here. In order to provide us with that objective scholarly discussion, synthesized scholarly discussion field that we want. You guys are getting really good at this. All right. Oh, somebody have a question?
No, I was just going to point out another thing to look at is this in terms of just the content, the verbiage, the content, and if you make note that there's only 4 sentences. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences that comprise this paragraph. But when we think about quality, it could have been ratcheted up differently to give more quality and still just maintain 4 sentences.
Well, would have 6 with the topic and closing, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, there's like a lot of extra words in here, like,
Yeah.
you know, that you could take out,
And change.
would shorten would give it, you know, more of a direct effect instead of it being with all these extra words in here that, you know, are just fluffing it up a little. I guess that's the best way to say it. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah.
And what
And
if you, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. And if you're the writer and you're thinking, oh, okay, I need to have 3 to 5 sentences for a paragraph, you know, and I'm just looking at, okay, here's sentence 1, here's sentence 2, then you can fall into some of these traps by trying to put the paragraph together without really recognizing what you're writing.
And then I'm wondering, what is reciprocal inquiry?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at that going, it failed to address the reciprocal inquiry of why distributors were unable to achieve. That just needs to be cited, right? So just a little bit of work here. Let's fluff this up. Now, when I look at a chapter 2, it's about 40 to 50 pages total with your 30-page review of literature, your literature review area. And if you can imagine me getting it as your content expert, and there hasn't been a lot of reading of it, maybe the chair didn't have a lot of expertise in it, so they may not have known. When I hit it and I say, now I need topic sentences and closing sentences on everything, no one citation paragraphs. I need multiple citations for you to host a scholarly discussion. And I hand that back to the learner. Now you understand that I may not be the most popular person in the world at that point in time, because that's a lot of work to go back and do on 30 pages. You can get away with maybe some of that in your chapter 1 and 3 as you're explaining your process and what you're doing. But in that review of literature, you're expected to write as if you're going to publish that piece of the doctoral dissertation.
Yeah, like I think another thing that I always took out of it is like, if you have the word like more of this, just say this, right? Instead of adding the descriptive word of more or, you know, those things. If you take out those small words, it just makes it, and you go back and read the whole paragraph, it's so much clearer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, good. All right, let's go to the next one. So what do we like and what do we think should be different about this paragraph?
There seems to be a lot of comma usage, like her sentences are very long, and there's a lot going on in each one.
I'm not particularly fond of how the last sentence is written either.
Mm-mm.
Okay. This is out of a published dissertation.
It looks as though they used the same citation. Like I see Pew Research Center utilized in 2 separate places. It's almost as if they could have, I think, written the sentences a little bit better in regards to just even that area. Like you said, it's a bit long, but somehow shortening up even what was being said with the 2 separate ones.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I think the topic sentence could have become 2 separate sentences and made it a little bit more concise and a little bit more clear.
Okay.
I do think I'm not quite understanding what they're trying to support with the Clavio and the Yoon and the Petrick and the Beckman and the other, like Pew. Like, it's not very clear to me as a reader what they're trying to say that all of these articles are saying.
Okay. You almost need to see the paragraph before and the paragraph after for this one. But yes, I agree. As a standalone paragraph, there's a lot going on.
Very busy.
Has this person successfully argued the idea that social media platforms has penetrated society and reinvented interpersonal communication and relations across the globe.
Well, I think they talk about how it's penetrated, but they don't really talk. There's no argument about how it reinvented interpersonal communication.
Yep.
Mhm.
I think they tried to get to that in the last sentence, but I don't know that they got there.
Yeah, that it was back 5% back in 2005 and nearly 70% in 2011. That is a big jump. But she said that demonstrates a significant impact of the platform on the vast majority of individuals, but it doesn't say how it impacts them. It just says a lot more people are on public communication.
And
It
technically,
doesn't talk about how their interpersonal communication. You're right, Alana. It doesn't. The communications. It doesn't talk about.
Well, there are more people on there. How is it impacting them?
so maybe they should have started with, in less than a decade, the integration of various social media platforms has penetrated society, period. With the introduction of all this, it still needs a citation on that last one, right? I would put a citation on that because you're quoting something. Where did you get that? Even if you did the math and said 7 and 10, right? But still, I would have shortened this and made this 2 or 3 paragraphs. Very good. Woo. Let's see. Good. And then added a transition or closing sentence, probably to, so it would have gone to the vast majority of individuals. A closing transition sentence to has also reinvented interpersonal communication and relations across the globe, and then gone into how that did that. Good. Good.
Good job.
Okay, we're gonna grade this one. I thought we'd vary it up a little bit. You guys are starting to get really good at this. So this is an early on dissertation. You can see the dates are a little bit off, so don't even focus on that. But I'd like for you to get an essence of the paragraph and then think about, if you were grading it, what you would grade it.
I think it's a lot closer. I think for me, I would probably give it closer to like a 1.5 to a 2. I mean, I see it's missing the ending sentence, and well, I'm seeing problems with the spacing between the sentences. But I like the opening statement. It's very succinct and to the point.
Yeah, your topic sentence does not have to be elaborate. It can be in your face. Blah. Right? The more elaborate you saw Lori get with hers, the more it became opinionated.
Right.
I see
think-
that isn't capitalized.
What
It's
is
like
it?
at the beginning they have veterans capitalized, and then towards the middle and the end, veterans is no longer capitalized. So there's no consistency with that.
What else, Lori?
I was going to say the arguments after, okay, so veterans may need additional training or education. When they start their arguments, there's not a lot of difference between the arguments. They're the same things. They're not citing both sides of the story, or there's no contradiction in them. So why, okay, so 3 people said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they are doing a supporting argument, right? Versus
Right.
so they're trying to support probably why they're studying veterans in transit.
Ah.
Well, we don't have the whole story, right? But
No.
But to your point, it's a little confusing here without the whole story.
I feel like this could be broken up into a few different paragraphs because they're talking about different things that veterans need training on, seeking training to help them understand the idiosyncrasies of civilian organizations, training on how to highlight their skills, and training for like reestablishing relationships and emotions. That should be broken up into 3 separate arguments instead of trying to mush them all in one argument.
What do we know they're talking about next in the next paragraphs following?
The complications in reintegration.
Yeah. With reestablishing old relationship, balancing emotions, and maintaining a sense of belonging. So if this was like the very first time they're writing a section on, let's say they have a subheading, veteran training and education. Let's say that's the subheading. And they start with this as the introductory paragraph before they go into each other part of complicating reintegration, reestablishing relationships, balancing emotions. So now you can see chapter 2 emerging out of this, even though it needs a little bit of work. But I think if this was at the very beginning, then you can go, okay, subheadings X, Y, and Z are coming in order to help support this argument. So remember in chapter 2, for each section has to have an introductory paragraph that says what's coming. So in chapter 2, I know you guys have heard me say this, but in chapter 2, you have your introductory to the chapter. Here's what my chapter is going to talk about, all these things. And then your first subheading comes next, and it has its own introduction to that little baby section. And then you talk about it. This person would talk about relationship, reintegration, relationships, balancing emotions, and maintaining a sense of belonging in that section. And then you close with a really strong argument that mirrors what you introduced in the introductory paragraph. So you have to bring it back around into that, and then it leads into the next subsection, whatever the next section. So A minus, B, you guys somewhere in there? Depending on where this falls.
Yeah, probably B.
Okay. And by the way, this is a published dissertation. So what does that tell you?
Not always perfect.
Not always perfect, no. And you'll go back and look at your dissertation and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe they published that. No, there's a few things that happen. Good. Okay, this one, same thing. This paragraph number 2, you can see this is a subheading because it's got insights from behavior and ethics, period, and then it goes into this information.
So wouldn't that be incorrectly formatted? Shouldn't the paragraph begin below the subheading instead of next to the subheading?
It depends. I'm not quite, the subheadings are changing for APA 7, so I'm really confused right now. But that would be a sub, I think, heading. And that might be okay.
Okay.
Like level 3 or 4.
Okay.
What do you notice right off the bat?
I don't see any like citations to support their argument. It's just their argument.
What would I put in a bubble comment right off the bat?
Where's your evidence to back this up?
I put, this is your own opinion, comma, experience, or other information. Where is your evidence to back this up?
There's also some grammatical issues. Students feel guilt or nervous when they have gotten away with academic dishonesty. I mean, the researcher can't get into their head. They can't know how they feel if they're guilty or nervous, but it's also not a very strongly written sentence.
Yeah.
I don't understand their sentence. Academic integrity involves managing steps to implement in centers. What does that have? I mean, it doesn't seem like it has anything to do with anything else written in this.
Please.
Yeah.
Students believe it is a common practice for peers. If that's their closing sentence, I have no idea what it has to do with the paragraph that they just wrote.
Good. So we're going to give this an F. We aren't even going to give it a C.
Mm-mm.
It failed in like so many areas here. It's not even an introductory and if it's 3 or 4 sections down into some subsection, yeah. And this is what we see
A
a
lot.
lot. Sorry. Yes, Kathy. Yes,
Sorry.
Dr. Winslow.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, it's like they forget what to write, or they forget their good APA structure. And some of the papers that you're going to be asked to write, especially like in 861, there's an opinion paper, and there's their first 14-page paper is a little odd because you're focusing on 10 different articles using the 4 problem, purpose. What's the problem for this article? What's purpose? And people just forget their APA formatting and they give me bullets and all kinds of stuff. And I'm going to say, no matter what the paper is, to Maria's point early on, you can always use this author, blah, 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 instead of I, we, me, those kinds of things. Good. Let's go to the next one. We have about 8 minutes left. This is a lot. So we know, let's just talk about what we noticed right off the bat. You're not even reading it. What do you notice right off the bat?
It's single space.
It's too
Yeah.
many.
Well, I had to single space it for this. But yeah. What else?
Looks like it's way too many sentences, but maybe it's not.
Right. There's a lot going on here, right?
I keep saying this is usually, this is a contrast. What is this?
That's what I put. Liliana, you caught it right off the bat. That's what I put in.
That's not a complete sentence. This usually, what involves?
But because the sentence before it says an example of forward-looking feedback is when a leader asks an employee about some future outcome. This. Okay, now let me look. And what it causes me to do is to look back at the sentence before as a reader to try and figure out what this is. But there's a lot going on in this. Is it the future outcome? Is it the leader asking the employee? Is it feedback? What is this? And so you are exactly right. There's not a good transitionary feel to it. What else?
Sentence, if that's their topic sentence, it has a citation in it.
Yep, immediately.
And then I'm still learning, so I'm still new at this, but I believe you said that the closing sentence or the transition sentence doesn't have a citation in it, but in this example it does.
Yeah. And so even if they tried to use the first sentence, it is believed, who believes this, but it is believed that what I would do here, by the way, somebody asked about, do we put we're going to pretend the first sentence is the second sentence for a minute. But in this case where you say it is believed that effective feedback leads to desired outcomes, I wouldn't put that citation at the end. I would put the names at the beginning. So I would so there'd be some form of topic sentence. And then Baker, Peralt, Reed, and Blanchard, and then the Prenz of 2013, believe that effective feedback leads. Because when you start with it makes no sense. Because then you have to get to the end of it and go, okay, well, maybe not. So they need, you know what I would probably do? You see that second sentence? Not all feedback has the same effect on employees. Would that be a wonderful topic sentence?
Right.
I mean, it would be a start to some sort of topic sentence, but they have it buried in sentence 2.
Well,
And then
they say this usually involves, well, I mean, how do you know? What's usually, is that 40% of the time, 10% of the time? Like,
and it's not cited.
right.
So now we have a problem right smack dab in the middle of a bunch of content for 3 sentences. An example of a forward-looking, by the way, when this is double spaced all the way out, it's almost a full page, just so you know.
A lot.
An example of forward-looking feedback is when a leader asks an employee about some future outcome. This usually involves career path decisions or simply moving. Okay, and then we go into this again, to your point, is a contrast to the typical evaluative feedback that involves assessing and evaluating a specific outcome that has happened in the past. So I don't know if you can see my I can't highlight in here. I can. Oops, back. So all of a sudden, I would highlight that entire section, and I would go, this is your biased, unsupported opinion or experience, which has no place in scholarly writing. And this is an example of someone who didn't plan out this paragraph, that just wrote. Now, I'm okay with a really short transition sentence that's yours from one idea to the next, but it shouldn't involve opinion or numbers or anything like that. In this quantitative correlation or research study, the basic psychological need of autonomy. And what's wrong with that citation?
Yeah, it shouldn't have that name in it. Intrinsic motivation, self-determination, human behavior. Doesn't need, there's nothing, that shouldn't even be in there at all.
Right.
Will be examined as a mediating variable in the relationship between developmental feedback and job performance. Okay. So a lot going on here. This is, I would take that middle part out, move the topic sentence up. If my topic sentence is not all feedback has the same effect on employees, then I could have a closing one that says, the closing one they tried to do is to introduce the basic need, and this will be examined. You might have a therefore something, something, something to close it or open up to the next paragraph.
Well, and I don't know that in this quantitative correlational research study adds value to that sentence. That is just a bunch of words that you're getting all stuck up on that instead of what they're trying to say. They should have just said, in this study, the basic psychological need of autonomy.
Yep. All right. Good. Excellent. You guys are getting it. Tell me how this feels. We're going to go into that in a minute, but tell me how this seminar helped you to look at this in a different way.
It's very helpful, I think.
It's really helpful, especially for me, because I'm just starting my second year. You guys seem to be a little further in your programs. So it really helps me identify the things that I need to change on my end and improve my writing for not only just the classes, but also for my dissertation moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So
I think the specifics helps Dr. Lori, because calling out each one, because when you get your feedback and they just say, oh, do a paragraph like this, the structure looks like this. Okay, that's all great, but looking at the errors and seeing them and finding out what the differences are, that's more helpful than just saying follow this format. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Gives you examples.
Yeah.
I think that's part of what we were trying to do today also is getting you into our head, because we look at hundreds of papers, hundreds of, I don't know how many dissertations I've looked at. And immediately we see things wrong and we just mark some neutral comment. This isn't right. Go do this. Think about that. But now when you have something like this, you go, oh, now I see. Oh, I get it now why I can't say X or Y. Good. All right, couple things and we'll get you out of here. The APA 6 versus 7 resources, I've got them up here on the screen. That video is pretty good, by the way. And so you can have some things, buy the new. It's not a lot of differences. I call it, it's similar to somebody writing a new textbook. I consolidated 2 chapters, I added another one, and I sold a new textbook. So, but in your classwork, not so much, but in your dissertations coming up. And Lauren, it's not too early to download the dissertation that meets your needs. Oh, that too. Have you got the 7? Oh, look at you.
Posted it. I was like, I have to buy it.
Yeah, I have to buy it.
Would
Then
be
some of these have these little comparison charts too, which means that there's some sections that aren't changed and others that are.
yeah, but it's nice to have.
Yeah.
It can be marked down in our coursework prior to building our dissertations if we use this 7th edition.
I won't, but I can't guarantee someone else may not.
I was told to not use it.
So
And
there you go.
Is-
Until it's approved, I think in January, it's all going to transition over.
Mhm.
So, yeah. But it's one space after sentence end and punctuation. The biggest changes are in the heading bubble looks, and you're not in your papers. You're going to be losing levels 1 and 2, so I can't see that that's going to be a big difference. How to cite a figure, you're not going to have that till the end. So there's a lot of things. That's why I would go through that template and try and figure out. But if you're in there writing in your prospectus, or you're in there writing in your new document, because you can write chapter 2 as soon as you figure out what you're writing about. Like Lori has 2
At
surveys.
all, right? The at all is probably a big change too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
at
big
all.
change.
Any other questions you all have about scholarly writing or what we looked at today?
This class was super helpful
Yeah, that's
having this meeting, so I appreciate that.
Let me hold on 1 second. I need to stop the recording because we're kind of going off on another outside of this. I just want to thank everyone, and Dr. Wenzel and I just want to thank everyone. You don't have to post anything in the chat box right now, but we want to thank you all for attending, for being a part of our inaugural seminar. Is there any other topics that you guys would recommend that you would like us to focus on? I know we ran a little over. If you think about them, send them to, I think you guys all have Dr. Wenslow's information, and probably mine you can find anywhere. But send us a note. We were talking before everyone came on about, I've got this idea about a study. How do I make it a study? So I'm thinking that I might do that the next time. I'll have to figure out what to say. How do I find my topic and define my topic kind of feel the next time? But we can also do atypical research. I mean, you have to become, to Liliana's point, you have to become well-versed in quant and qual only in the language of I chose quant because, I chose qual because quant was like this and I was like that. So you have to have the language of a researcher. So those are some things that Dr. Wenzel and I are working on right now.